I'm excited, actually. This is going to be a really good show. Hopefully sustain a nice show that people can get a lot of value from and get a lot of content and good information that can help them. And when I say help them, I mean the grassroots goalkeepers, people that we serve at the grassroots level. We're not with any club teams, college teams, pro teams. We have to build everything from the ground up. Everything is work, everything is merit. That's what makes our journey so beautiful. With that journey comes lots of challenges, lots of ideas, lots of opinions, lots of things that most other environments probably don't have to deal with, but we do. How do I get the message out to some of my parents who are learning for the first time, who are going through this maze, who are constantly being bombarded with new trends and new social media and new this, new that, the shiny object syndrome? How do I help them? This is how I'll help you. Stay tuned.
How you doing? This is Coach Gabe. Thanks for tuning in. Today we're going to talk about expressing ourselves clearly to coaches. I think this is a topic of great importance because there's a lot of young people out there who have a tough time expressing their wants, their needs, their opinions to coaches in moments that aren't the best, or just don't do it at all and ever. It starts to boil up, and then boom, there's a blow up, which is a problem because how are you supposed to get what you want and the things that you need? These opinions of mine come from a great deal of experience. They come from I don't tend to tell you like I'm the best communicator. I'm doing my best to learn how to communicate, to learn how to become the better coach that I want and wish to be. So that's where this experience and thought process is coming from. But goalkeepers specifically have a tough time having these conversations with coaches. It seems like they become some reclusive at times where they're not saying what they want to say and they don't feel like they can do it in the moment they need to do it. Even older goalkeepers, I see this and this becomes a problem. So here are some thoughts today. My first thought in this is the timing. Timing is so important. Coaches, before a training session, are trying to make sure all the equipment is together. They're trying to make sure that all the dynamics are right. People are showing up, equipment's there, plan is set. They're trying to coordinate. It's essentially an event, so they're trying to coordinate an event and making sure that the event is running very smoothly. They're trying to make sure that all these things are in unison. So approaching a coach right before a training session about a particular deep thinking topic is interesting. So depending on the severity, how big the topic is, approaching your coach right before a training session is always probably one of the most difficult times. After a training session is an easier time, but it's still a difficult time because they are trying to close down. They're trying to, everybody's approaching them, coach this, coach that. So there's so many people at the same exact time approaching coach and asking them for certain things. And also at the same time, if you're a coach and you're doing really good work, you will be mentally drained. You will be drained emotionally because you've put out a lot of different, you're trying to uplift people. So you're putting out much more emotional fuel than most people would ever understand. So coach wants to give you their attention, and they put out a lot of attention too, being very attention to detail to a lot of the kids who are out there, and you're trying to making sure that the attention to their detail is correct. So, you're putting out attention, emotion, you're putting out just energy in general. That's all that costs energy. So after a practice, if it's an intense level of practicing, you don't know how many practices the coach has been in. So after a practice, it's always tough as well because there's just a drain that is happening at the end of practice. I would suggest that you send a text in that moment, or at least write down your thoughts. Writing down your thoughts is so important, I believe, because how you feel in one moment doesn't necessarily make you feel the same in the next moment. So if there's a thought or a belief or an opinion or an objection, any of these things, write it down immediately. Get a pen out, get a pad, get a white piece of paper, go to the printer and get a white piece of paper, just write it down. Write out the entire opinion. Pull out your phone, get it on notes, write down the entire situation. Get it clear, make sure you're clear. Because with clarity comes diagnosis. With diagnosis comes a problem-solving situation, right? And be clear about it. I tell my students, okay, we're going to write this out. Cool. Write it today. Look at it tomorrow. And if you feel the same or make adjustments, that way the emotions of things aren't fueling and driving this too intently at a situation. It's okay to feel emotional about anything, of course, absolutely. But at the same time, we can't allow our emotions to drive a bad decision-making process. Talking to the coach very harshly or talking to a teammate very harshly, in a situation where you could have just tried to calm yourself and try to gain clarity. Gain clarity is super important. A lot of the students that I deal with are very respectful. I made a video about some students being a little bit having too much access to certain things, but on the complete opposite end of the spectrum of things, a lot of students are very, very, very respectful in person. That's never been an issue. And let me just say this about that respect. That's very much appreciated, but it can sometimes turn into a lack of you being able to confront a situation. And I don't mean confront in a very negative way. I mean confront in a way that can shine light to a dynamic or a situation. Like this is a video. I am confronting a situation, but I'm doing it in a way where people can find light in it, right? I'm not confronting you. I'm not pointing the finger at you. I'm not being negative. I'm trying to have a strong tone. I'm confronting a situation that needs to be heard and discussed. That's my opinion of confronting the situation. So the respect factor, I think a lot of young kids have so much respect. That is not a thing I think we lack in. I think there's a lot of kids, especially goalkeepers, who understand respect. What I think that happens with a lot of respect is they don't now voice themselves and don't know how to do that part, which that's a disservice to them as well. They need to learn how to confront situations where they need to get things managed and talked about and communicated about. Coaches, I need you to know this about your goalkeepers. Some of them can become very reclusive, not say much, not do much in terms of asking for a lot of things, because that's an attitude that a lot of goalkeepers have taken. They don't need much to be amazing, right? Like that's an attitude. Or they are more introverted, so they don't talk as much, but their needs are massive. And the things that they want to discuss are grand. Some of them are very, very ambitious, and you'll know. And on the other end, there's some keepers that are just very, very vibrant. They talk so much. They are very, very, their needs are talked and expressed on all the time. It's constant, right? So there's like a, okay, we heard you. There's that kind of a moment. I think those ones are far and few between, but there's more of a reclusive type in some of the younger goalkeepers that we're looking at and dealing with. So just understand, if they're not saying much to you, that doesn't mean that their needs are not huge and that their voice hasn't been heard. It probably means the complete opposite. And there's kinds of things that they can discuss. If I was you, I would say, look, what's the number one, number two thing? Because there's a million things that everybody needs all the time, I understand. So maybe you can pinpoint the number one, number two thing with them that you can help them with. That's a good place to start, coaches. Because, I know that you have a lot of needs. You have defenders, you have midfielders, you have attackers, you have a whole team to deal with, you have parents, you have all kinds of things that you're dealing with. I understand. But you just simply saying, hey, what is the number one or number two thing that you think we have a problem with? Either, and it doesn't have to be technique, it could be outside the field, because those dynamics are huge too, right? Maybe they're not getting along with the defender and it's affecting things. That's a good question to ask them, because we gotta build that bridge here. And I'm trying to help young keepers being able to have the strength and the understanding that they can reach out to their leader in charge. Young goalkeepers, I always say this: asking costs you nothing. But don't always expect you to get what you want, when you want it, how you want it, all the time. Sometimes it takes time. Ask away. Be respectful. Timing is everything. Send a text to your coach. Hey, coach, I'd like to chat with you. But before you send that text, make sure you have certain ideas kind of in line already. I want to talk to you about certain things. Boom, 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 boom. Great. Now your coach knows that you value their time and you understand they need to have a certain time away from this intense moment where they can gather themselves and come to you with some good solutions, or come to you in a state of mind that is constructive. Because coaches are human too, and they want to make sure that they can provide value to every individual that they touch. If they're good coaches, right? Absolutely. And if we're coming face to face, if you've developed a time and you've set it in text and you've come to that place where you're meeting your coach in person, understand they might not give you what you're asking for. That is a possible situation. That's 50-50 chance that they don't give you what you're asking for. And you have to be understanding of that. Doesn't mean you have to accept it. You can accept it in a way where you put action and then you create another action where you start to work harder. That's how you accept things, right? You can accept it like that. But there's, you just because you're asking correctly at the right time, at the right place, and having these conversations and making sure you're up doesn't mean that everything is going to be given to you because of it. It simply means you're taking the steps correctly in order to get what you're asking for and doing the prerequisite in order to maintain just valid communication to your coach in general. You're going to get more out of handling things like this than you will out of handling things in a very emotionally driven state. Out of nowhere, you blow up, you yell, you scream, you gossip, because gossip is understood. Coaches know when you're gossiping. They know when you're talking behind their back. They know when you're talking to other people. They know it. They know it. They see it. They've been around it. They can tell. There's a vibe. And you don't want to be one of those people who does that, because they'll know. And guess what? When coaches get better, they'll get better jobs. They become more respected in their community. Those things will stay with them. You don't want to be that person. I'm just telling you the truth. This is the way it works. You want to be a person who troubleshoots, who comes to the table with problems. If you could bring solutions to this problem, even better. Doing things correctly will always give you a better way of dealing with it being worked with in general. And coaches truly appreciate that. You become much more valuable of a communicator, of a team member, than most people who don't care about this little dynamic right here. This is a huge dynamic. How about even sending a coach, hey coach, that was an awesome moment today when this happened. I appreciate you. A little text like that, you know how far that goes? Huge. So not only go into coach when you have problems, but also go into coach when there's certain things that you enjoy. Maybe they don't know. Goes a long way. Let's be successful, guys, okay? So with much love, get after it. Coach Gabe, I'm out.